Congratulations, Austria. So you may already know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, well, it'll be in the title of this video anyway. I've just watched the Eurovision Song Contest with my mother. This year it was held in Copenhagen, Denmark. Now, for those of you who may be outside Europe and don't know what this contest is, it's a major pan-continental music contest whereby European countries compete in a singing contest. And the way it works, basically, it's a very old competition. It goes back to 1956, which probably makes it one of the oldest, if not the oldest, competition of its kind in the world, and probably the largest in scale. And basically you have European countries. It's not always every European country is involved, usually most EU countries and a number of countries outside the EU. But they will put forward their contestant, and there's semi-finals and so on before that. I hardly ever watch the semi-finals, but that singer will then perform for that country, and the way it works is all the other countries then vote for who they think should win. But the catch is that you cannot vote for your own country. So for example, I'm British, I can never vote for the UK entry. The understanding there is to make it fair, because obviously countries with a bigger population are going to there'd be more of a chance of them always winning. There's some countries that always have a right to enter because they fund the Eurovision. Britain's one of them. The other three is Germany, France and Spain. I just want to speak about the Eurovision and how it's perceived in this country. Now, I've always enjoyed the Eurovision. I think it's basically light-hearted entertainment. That's how I view it. And in the troubled world, I believe that's a good thing. A lot of Britons think it's ridiculous because a lot of the actual talent is questionable, but also because there's a perceived attitude that a lot of countries have. They just vote for their neighbours. They can't vote for themselves, so they vote for their neighbours. That may well be true. You'll see examples. For example, Sweden will vote for Denmark, Lithuania will vote for Estonia, things like that. It's not always the case, but it's along those lines sometimes, and that's almost juvenile actually. But I want to defend the Eurovision Song Contest. I think mostly it's good-natured. Tonight was slightly exceptional because every time there was a mention of Russia, there was a big boo. Now, I've made a lot of videos about the situation in Ukraine, and obviously that was a reference to what's going on there. Russia is not a popular country in Europe right now. However, I agree with what Graham Norton said. It's hardly the fault of the two young women who were representing Russia. So the controversy around Russia is definitely understandable. I mean, I've made my position clear on that, but it's not the fault of I mean, these girls are only 17 years old. They're not politicians. They're not soldiers. I think so I was slightly uneasy about that. What I was going to say in this video though is generally speaking, the Eurovision is good-natured. I mean, you see in the auditorium there's flags from all over Europe, people mixing together. It's generally a party atmosphere, and it's a good atmosphere. I do suspect tonight there was some political manoeuvring involved. The winner was a transgender Austrian woman, and who had formerly been a man. That's my understanding. I suspect that was to send out a strong message to Russia because of the anti-gay laws, because she did make a somewhat political speech on her winning. She said, we stand together united, and I think she was definitely referencing that. So I hope it doesn't get too political, because that's the thing I've always liked about the Eurovision, is it's very light-hearted, so I hope it doesn't get too much like that. It's not that I don't support her, but I think I'm not sure if the Eurovision is the right place to show that. The Eurovision should be about music, not politics. I mean, in the past there was times when Israel voted and Middle Eastern countries just pretended Israel hadn't won or Israel wasn't taken apart, things like that. I say Middle Eastern countries because this is a musical contest broadcast all over the world. They actually, tonight, the Danish hosts made a reference to China several times because there's a Chinese audience. Some of the acts were very entertaining. I liked the French act. In terms of singing, talentless, but memorable, funny, entertaining. The Swedish act, she had good vocals. Um, who else do we have? There was the Ukrainian act was memorable because the guy in a hamster wheel, that was quite funny. The Russian twins, I did like it. I liked their idea of the hair joined together and so on. The Dutch were good. Personally, I would have thought I would have preferred the Dutch one, but there you have it. The Polish entry was quite interesting. On one hand, it was classy and they had a sort of Slavic style, but the girl on the milk crate was slightly X-rated. But no, overall, I think the Eurovision is a good thing. I'd like to address some of the British viewers or British people watching this. You know, there's a widespread sort of, a lot of British people grumble about it, but I'd like to make several points about that. Firstly, this thing, we never win. It's factually wrong. We've actually been very lucky. If you look at all the winners over the 59 years of the Eurovision, Britain's won 6 times. Now, when you consider all the countries involved, that's a pretty good innings. 6 times. The last time we hosted was Birmingham in 1998. So, like I say, the way it works is the winning contestant, their country will host it in the following year. I remember in the 90s there was a time Ireland was so successful they were actually deliberately trying to lose, or at least that's the theory. And they even made a joke about that in the comedy series Father Ted. What else can I say? So yeah, the idea that, oh, we never win. My question is, well, it's a competition. Why should we always win? For one thing, we're not always the best. I mean, tonight, our contestant Molly, I forget her surname, she was good, but I don't think she was the best. So average seems like a good rating to me, a fair rating. I mean, it's a little bit arrogant to assume that we should always win. It's the nature of an international competition, like the Olympics. And like the Olympics, we do much better than people think. I mean, there's something like tonight is 26 countries involved. Why should we win? Just because we're involved? And also, we have advantages other countries don't have. We always have a right to enter, whereas some countries sometimes are not shortlisted for that. So, you know, you have to look at it that way. One famous British host year was 1974, which was the debut of ABBA with Waterloo. In fact, I'm watching the TV right now, there's a documentary I think about ABBA. But not much more to say. Usually I don't watch music competitions. I like music, of course, who doesn't, but I don't usually watch music competitions. I mean, in the UK we have shows called the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent. Britain's Got Talent sometimes includes music, but it's more about sort of things, talents that people have. X Factor's about music. Now, I really don't like those shows, and the reason is there's a mean spirit about those shows that you don't have with Eurovision, with the possible section of tonight. With X Factor, I get the impression that contestants who are clearly not very good are deliberately put through just so they can be used for entertainment. And there's something unpleasant about that, because if they're really deluding themselves into thinking they're good because their friends have told them or whatever, and they're really not good, they'll be put on there, televised nationally, and then jeered off by the crowd, and then you get a smug millionaire like Simon Cowell. I really don't like the guy, and the other hosts just talking down to them. There's something very nasty about the X Factor, and the same with Britain's Got Talent. In my opinion, if they're not good enough, they shouldn't be televised. Why humiliate these people further? It's just stupid. And clearly the purpose is because, like I've argued before, humiliation sells on British television. It helps ratings, and I don't like that one little bit. I don't like the fact that if a contestant isn't good enough, they're just jeered off. And it's the same with America's Got Talent. I remember about 10 years ago, I saw a clip of a young man who was playing on the guitar, and he was having some technical problems. His guitar wouldn't start up properly, and the crowd just started jeering in an absolutely disgusting manner. This was a young man who's devoted his life to music. It's clearly something he enjoys, and his one moment where he had an opportunity, he's just jeered off. It's disgusting. Because I have respect for anyone who takes on that sort of situation and handles stage fright or whatever. So really, it's that sort of disrespect I have no time for. With the Eurovision, for the most part, it's respectful. I mean, when the Russian girls appeared tonight, they themselves weren't jeered, but just when Russia was mentioned. Mostly the Eurovision is respectful, and that's precisely why I like it. X Factor's not. In my opinion, it sort of promotes bullying. Now, if you think that's an exaggerated comment, consider the implications. Someone's not good enough at something, they're jeered down, they're shouted down. It's very unpleasant. I don't like it one little bit, so I never watch that show. And I can't really understand its popularity. The judges are unpleasant, most of them. I just don't get it. I don't get the big appeal with it. If it was just a music contest, which was fair and which had good nature, I'd have no problem with that. But it's the fact that it is mean-spirited, and I mean, of course, a lot of the time you get people that do well and they're cheered and so on. That's fine. What I have a problem with is those that don't do well are not treated respectfully. They're treated. It's like, it reminds me of Elizabethan theatres whereby rotten vegetables were thrown at people who didn't perform well. And you might think I'm being too sensitive, but I do. I just hate bullying. I hate it with every fibre of my being. And to me, even if no one will admit it, that is basically, it's sort of like bullying, yeah. And it's really vile, because you have all those people in the audience just treating them. I just don't like it. And there's way too much of it in British television right now. So leave it there. Not much more to say really, but to British viewers, if you don't like the Eurovision, you have a right not to. But I think I see the Eurovision for what it is: well-intentioned fun fest. That's basically what it is. And so what if the singers who win? The point about the Eurovision is it's meant to be fun. You know, someone who comes last, they're not going to be. They're part of the party atmosphere, and they're not going to be like, you know, booed off or something, which is what you would get in the X Factor. I think people just need to recognise it for what it is. It's a fun fest. And in a world with war, persecution, human rights abuses, etc., 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 at times you need something like this just to distract people. So well done to our Danish friends. I think they put on a pretty good show. I like the little Chinese message they made at the start, because there is actually Chinese viewers nowadays. So I think it's predominantly a good thing, and I want to see it continue. Thank you for watching.